AlJazeera's Patty Culhane reports now from Washington.
While tears are still being shed, wounds bandaged. In Washington, D.C., the Obama administration reacts to the violence from Bahrain to Libya and Yemen.
And as with other countries, we're not looking to dictate events, but we are making very clear the values that we hold.
But when it came to protests in Iran, strong condemnation came from President Barack Obama himself this week.
What's been different is the Iranian government's response, which is to shoot people and beat people and arrest people.
Now that shots have been fired in the name of Bahrain's government, a key ally to the U.S. and home to the strategically critical U.S. Navy base, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton seems to be showing some support for the Bahraini government's position.
While all governments have a responsibility to provide citizens with security and stability, we call on restraint.
The Obama administration denies there is any difference in their response. Once secret diplomatic cables posted on WikiLeaks show the U.S. believes it does have leverage in Bahrain. A senior diplomat writing, quote, Bahrain's national security strategy rests squarely on the presence here of NAVCENT 5th Fleet headquarters and Bahrain's close security partnership with the U.S. Unlike its Gulf neighbors, Bahrain does not enjoy the kind of oil revenues that might enable it to buy advanced weaponry on its own. So the U.S. provided aid to buy those weapons, from $3.9 million the year before that was written to $8 million in 2009, then $19 million, and a request for $19.5 this year.
We think our voice matters in this, and that's why we have been very clear in stating our opposition and our disappointment and displeasure with the use of violence.
Saying their words matter. The word for this, disappointment. Patty Culhane, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Police in Afghanistan say 9 people are dead after a bomb blast in the eastern city of Khost. A further 30 people were injured in the attack carried out by a suicide bomber with a carload of explosives. Most of the victims are civilians. The Taliban has claimed responsibility. After the unexpected death of his predecessor, retired diplomat Mark Grossman is due to take over as the US envoy to Afghanistan and Pakistan. At least one analyst describes it as the worst job in the world. Scott Heidler has more.
It's been over 9 years since the US invasion of Afghanistan. Hundreds of billions of dollars have been spent and more than 1,000 US servicemen have lost their lives. But the complete impact on Afghanistan is not yet known. President Hamid Karzai has been facing increasing criticism from Western nations over how he's running the country. Corruption and cronyism are still pervasive.
There needs to be much better governance within Afghanistan. There needs to be far more accountability.
On the military front, a counterinsurgency strategy has sent tens of thousands more troops to southern Afghanistan. But that has so far failed to stop major attacks. And it's looking increasingly likely that President Barack Obama won't be pulling troops out as early as he had planned. There's also concern over continuing violence and the preparedness of the Afghan security forces when they inherit the lead role in 2014. Over the next several months, the U.S. face in the region will go through some major changes. The vacancy left by the death of Special Envoy Richard Holbrooke is to be filled by retired diplomat Mark Grossman. The ambassador in Kabul, Carl Eichenberry, is coming to the end of his term, and the coalition commander, General David Petraeus, is slated to leave at the end of the year. Beyond the serious challenges on the ground in the region, Secretary Clinton and the Obama administration need to be concerned with American public perception. A recent Gallup poll shows that 82% of Americans view Afghanistan unfavorably and 76% view Pakistan unfavorably. That's mainly because this war has dragged on now nearly 10 years. But there still needs to be progress on and off the battlefield for the American public to support a continued military presence in Afghanistan.
So we need to recognize that that support is a dwindling resource. And so for Secretary Clinton and others are going to need to make the case that the maintenance of high levels of resource allocations, whether people or money or anything else, in Afghanistan is going to bear fruit.
And looking east, Pakistan's cooperation remains critical for coalition operations in Afghanistan. Even before U.S. troops arrived to the region, officials in Pakistan were dealing with their own difficulties, including a growing insurgency, corruption, political instability, and a struggling economy. Such problems have made it even less likely for Pakistani officials to exert the type of effort needed to secure a border that would be hard enough to secure under normal circumstances. Scott Heidler, Al Jazeera, New York.
Massive winter flooding has washed away key roads and bridges in Pakistan's Swat Valley. And now, months on, the task of restoring the vital links is underway. AlJazeera's Kamal Haider reports.
Liaquat Ali and his 6 brothers used to sell radishes in Mingawara city. Now they are content to set up shop by this new access road. This is the only connection to the eastern side of the river Swat, made by army engineers over the riverbed. Their produce is washed clean, then decorated to attract passing customers. But business is not what it used to be.
Because the bridges are destroyed, we cannot get to the market. That's why we are here.
Military engineers are working round the clock to create a water channel for the river, so they can begin work on new bridges. The key challenge now is to ensure that the population living on the other side of the river have those bridges so that they can resume their normal lives. According to estimates, almost 90% of the bridges were damaged or washed away, affecting more than 1 million people. The army is set to place ready-to-assemble bridges donated by friendly countries after the devastating flood. The United Arab Emirates is also lending some assistance, rebuilding a major bridge here. The progress is monitored back in the UAE through these special cameras. The relief and rehabilitation phase is far from over, and one of the keys to reconstruction in Swat will depend on how fast vital infrastructure is restored. Kamal Haider, AlJazeera, Swat.
The death toll from Haiti's cholera epidemic is still rising, and while far from over, figures suggest the outbreak is being contained, thanks in large part to an under-recognised team of doctors. Lucia Newman went to meet some of them.
The Artiboni, the only source of water for these villagers who use it to wash, bathe, and even defecate. The same river that is spreading cholera throughout Haiti. Here, where the cholera epidemic continues to cause havoc, we find a team of Cuban community health workers.
You can't drink the water without chlorine. Mix each packet with 10 liters of water.
These are the unsung heroes of Haiti's sanitary catastrophe. The 1,500 Cuban doctors and nurses who alone have treated 40% of the cholera victims in every corner of the country. Thousands of them right here in Mimbale, in the worst-hit region.
This month we're seeing between 15 and 30 cases a day, but no fatalities, thanks in part to our education and prevention work in the community.
Not that the Cuban doctors are new here. They are the backbone of Mimbale's community hospital, built before the earthquake as part of an international cooperation agreement. Dr. Armando Noahil delivered this baby just a few hours ago.
I'm the only obstetrician in this area. It's our busiest field, so I'm on call 24 hours a day.
The Cuban medical teams aren't in this country just for the emergency. In the 12 years that they've been in Haiti, they have treated more than 17 million cases. Most of them, in fact, in places where there are no Haitian doctors